So Highland Guys Podcast, I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with.
I'm Walker from Your Neighbors.
There's some questions today about their new album, American Hedonism. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
So far, it's been pretty good. I was a little nervous that it would be like a little too out there. Like our biggest song is Chicken, and like none of the songs on the project sound anything like that. But it seems to be like resonating like pretty well with the people that have heard it so far. So like I'm excited to kind of tour it, and we've got a couple other like unreleased songs as well that are going to be on the tour as well. So I'm just kind of excited to present these songs to like the live audience and see kind of like how they react to it. Because you'll know if they suck in that setting for sure. So like in
For
my
sure, yeah.
mind, I'll know how good it is. Because the problem is like with streaming now, like I feel like you don't really get a good idea of how good your music is or if it's even like really resonating with people until like a few years after the fact, because like the way like the Spotify algorithms work and stuff, like you can get your saves and like your likes or whatever on the songs, but like the algorithm takes forever to kick in. So like we'll see kind of with time. And honestly, if it doesn't really do very well, I don't plan on stopping on making music anytime soon. But I'm pretty proud of it. I think it turned out for what we were going for pretty good, and it's weird as hell, but
Hell yeah.
it's cool.
That's what I like about it so much is how out of the box and weird and eclectic it is. Because like I listened to the single Vamos before we took this interview, and the rest of the album is nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm digging this record a lot for sure.
Oh,
Thank you.
damn straight. The record is fire.
Dude, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it is like pretty all over the place. And I've always wondered too, like what we would sound like if we like did like the same song 10 times and just like kind of tried to I don't know, it just gets boring though for like after a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
kind of like need to be able to like, I guess express myself over different genres and stuff like that. And like,
Hmm.
having a song like Vamos and then like something like Kill Switch with like a crazy screamo thing at the end or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's just everything that I listen to is like all bundled up into, influences like onto the album. So
Mhm.
I yeah, that's just kind of like what is gonna happen, I guess. Like you've got to make the stuff that you're influenced by, I guess. So, I've got a lot of them. So
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot
I'm
of it,
I'm
yeah.
curious what you were listening to around the time that you were working on this in terms of influences.
well, I mean, we had been working on this project for like 3 years, prior to it being finished. So like I mean the original kind of like conception of the idea happened in like 2021, like around COVID, like right when I dropped Love Your Neighbors.
Mhm.
And then just slowly over time, I was listening to like at that time just a lot of metal actually. And then there's like a few concept albums like I was trying to think of like um dude, I don't really know other than just like it was a lot of Dance Gavin Dance and then like
Hell
a
yeah.
like what's that one band Fit for an Autopsy, just like
Hell
really
yeah.
aggressive, no clean vocals, like because I'm really picky about my clean vocals in my metal. So like it's either got to be all screamo every I really love like the actual clean voice. And like I don't know why it's like there's certain like early like maybe like early 2010s, like the first couple like of Mice and Men records, like with Shaylee
Mhm.
Jay singing, like his voice to me was so cool. And then like Asking Alexandria, some of their first couple
Hmm.
projects, and like just like Warped Tour bands, like I
Yeah.
don't know, it's just stuff
Yeah.
like I really enjoyed. And so like I think there was a lot of that. But I've always had like hip hop as an influence for like a while too. And like JPEG Mafia is somebody that I think is really doing a lot of weird, cool production that like
Yes.
not a lot of other people can do. And
Hmm.
I really gravitate towards those bands too that kind of like have their own niche that like, they don't really sound like anything else and you can only get that from them. So like that's
Hmm.
kind of like with Your Neighbors, kind of like what we're trying to do too. It's like,
Hmm.
love it or hate it, it is exactly what it's, going to be, every
Yeah.
time. Even though the genres bounce all over the place. It's like my voice is like the only common thread between all the stuff, but
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Music is weird.
Yeah. Oh
Music's
yeah.
fucking awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
it's funny that you said like you're picky with your clean vocals when it comes to metal, because I'm the total opposite way. I love clean vocals in metal as much as I love big screaming. But like you mentioned Fit for an Autopsy, bands like that. I'm very picky about my just straight up like no clean vocals at all, and those kinds of
Mm.
bands, because I like to at least somewhat understand what they're saying. When it just
A
becomes a
little bit.
big jarbled mess and the vocals kind of become another instrument, I get
Hmm.
like turned off. So I just thought it was funny that like you mentioned the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. the
That's
tastes
it.
are like subjective with like all that too. Like I feel like screamo sometimes like there's certain pitches that people like will scream at that like either it really grates their ears or like for instance like knocked loose. Like some people
Mhm.
will like go on there and be like knocked loose sounds like fucking Mickey Mouse screaming. I'm like this is like the
Yeah.
hardest shit I've ever heard.
I
What do
mean,
you
he
mean?
kind of
What are
does
you
though.
talking
Like,
about? Yeah,
it's
yeah, a
great,
little bit, a
but
little bit.
But and like I can see what people are talking about too. And like metal fans, like no one hates metal more than metal fans. I
Mhm.
feel like they just are like always hating on like where you're sellouts or whatever. Like
Hmm.
time a metal band gets popular, like they went on like Jimmy Kimmel and all like the metal fans were like sellouts, and then all the people that
Yep.
didn't know metal at all were freaked and like
Oh
were like,
yeah.
so shocked by it. So like I don't know, you can't really win, but yeah, I mean that's a I don't know, metal just is always just something I can turn on and really enjoy, at all times for some reason. So.
Me too.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Damn straight. So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, I mean there's a ton of meaning behind it. We went through a few different iterations of it. There was this I was in Australia and there was this like poster somewhere where it had this guy's head, but it was like the same head just like kept like looping in on itself so you could never see his face and it like was
Hmm.
slowly going in. And I remember sending that picture to Matt and being like, this is like pretty tight. Like we could probably try to use this as like, a reference for the album cover. And so each of the circles on the face on the album cover are like the seven deadly sins. And then you've got, the gun to the head for like, American hedonism or whatever, and the person like eating the apple, from like the Garden of Eden. And so like
Yeah.
it's kind of like a just like the idea of the album, I guess, is just like the seven deadly sins, essentially how they like affect you in like the modern day. Because like I think like all things evolve and stuff like over time, including like the things that kind of like burden human beings. And so this is kind of like those things in like a new age, I guess, and like observing those and how they can kind of affect your life. And then just generally just living a hedonistic lifestyle like usually ends to or it leads to a bad ending. So, that's
Hmm.
one thing at least that I've noticed in my short 28 years of life so far. So there's a lot of that. But that's essentially like the idea of the album cover is just kind of like showing those seven deadly sins and kind of like the
Yeah.
outcome of that. And like it is kind of grotesque. I mean, it's like somebody getting their head blown off on the cover, but it's like not really quite a face. So like that's like I was curious if DSPs would even like allow that because sometimes they get like a little weird on like album art and stuff. Like if it's like
Hmm.
too violent or whatever, but like it's they allowed it, so I guess it was fine. It's a
Yeah.
very metal
Yeah.
album cover, funny enough, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes like then you hear like Dogma or whatever off the album doesn't feel like it matches the front cover, but then in context it like all does like front to back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, this album was pretty much solely myself with like lyrics and melodies and stuff. There's one song on there called Sarah that I brought to a crew of people just because of like the subject matter being like really intense, and I kind of wanted to make sure that like we did that idea justice and like kind of like in a respectful way. But production wise, there's a couple songs like Out of My Mind, I've had some kind of semblance of that song for quite a while, probably like since like 2021, probably like towards the beginning of the conception of the album. And that was made with my buddy Taylor, as well as No Dice was another one of those. And then I'm trying to think of any of the other demos that came from like other places. Cause like for the most part, it was just me on the computer making these like lumps of clay to then give to Will, my like main production mix guy. He's like the great filter for your neighbors. So like everything kind of goes through him, and then he
Hmm.
puts all of his twists on it, and then gets mixed and mastered.
Mhm.
He usually mixes the projects. I had my buddy Jack step in for that, just because like when you're making an album for so long and you stay so zoomed in on it,
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard to have like a bird's eye view perspective,
For
and it
sure.
just gets like really taxing. And so I pivoted to Jack, and he was able to finish it up and add a couple of his own little twists as well. And so yeah, it was like I don't know, it was just such a long process. Honestly, a lot of it's a blur too. Like some like themes and things like I had totally forgot about that I'd even written because like of how long ago it started, and then as it like kind of like progressed into what it finally is. Like sometimes I feel like I don't even have a good idea of what it's fully about
Mhm.
sometimes just because of like how long it took to finish it. But yeah, like that was pretty much the main process was just me writing over these like demos and stuff and then sending them to Will and then bouncing back and forth off of that and then
Mhm.
mixed phase to my buddy Jack and mastered by Adam Grover, one of the best to ever do it. So
Hell yeah. So you mentioned the process kind of started for you around 2021. So when abouts did you finally get the masters in hand?
um we finished the album I think officially like done and dusted in like July of last year. So
Oof.
Okay.
like then like the rollout and stuff like that. Like we went through like a real like distribution company this time because like normally I would just like upload to DistroKid and just be like, all right, album's out. But they
Yeah.
have like certain things that they want to do. Like you do 4 singles and like do the waterfall releases and all of
Mhm.
that. And like since we had worked so hard on it, it took forever to do. I was like, I guess we'll go about it by this. So that's why albums take forever to finish. But yeah, it'd been done since July, like totally finished. And yeah, it came out in February, so that's just kind of the nature of it. And then it gave us a good runway too, because like I've got a ton of singles, to follow this album up,
Mhm.
almost immediately. It's just kind of
Mhm.
figuring out then like what the strategy is for release. But yeah,
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, I'm
Oh,
glad you were able to, get ahead while also continuing to work on this record so that it's not like it's out and now you're like, well, what do I do now? You
oh
know?
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
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 Well, you don't want to empty the clip too, especially like with like
Mhm.
today's consumption of music, like feeding the algorithm like every 6 weeks or whatever they say the standard is pretty important. Like honestly, I feel like the most of my growth as like just like numbers wise and stuff has been just consistently releasing and I do like doing it. Like I mean, when you're an artist, like in my mind, like there's a lot of people that'll take like long times to finish a single and stuff like that. But like when it's your vocation, in my mind, in my opinion, I feel like you just need to be like throwing music out as much as you can and just kind of like seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm just not too overly precious with it because like if I put out a song that some people just don't like, it's like, all right, well maybe you'll like this one instead. And like I don't feel like people like remember your failures that much. Like, they just have the
Mhm.
songs and they're like, if they don't like it, it doesn't make it in the playlist and they never think about you again. So it's like,
Yeah.
you can always just put out music all the time and just kind of see what the reaction is.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Damn straight. So, what song off the album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Oh boy. Longest to write. I know I did a lot of versions of Out of My Mind. There were like a bunch of different verses that I wrote. And I think so like as far as like man hours put into it, probably Out of My Mind took the longest. And it is like just like the strangest like arrangement too. So like trying to figure out how to build the song across 5.5 minutes, like that was pretty labor intensive.
Mhm.
No Dice was really difficult too, just because like we were trying to find like a good like clash between like rock sounds and then like the EDM stuff as well, like trying to find the way to get like the guitars to mix with the synths. Like that song saw a lot of different iterations too. But I wrote that one pretty quick. I had like all the lyrics kind of like in 2 days, probably max. Like got most of it done and then like went back and tweaked a few things.
Mhm.
Favorite one? I don't know. I mean, it's like weird for me because like sometimes when I listen to the front half of the album, those are like some of my favorite songs, and then like I get sick of those, and then I go to the back half, and then like those are my favorites. Like after that, so like
Yeah.
right now I'm in the back half phase of it, and so
Mhm.
like Kill Switch or like Sarah, like it's hard for me to go and listen to Sarah just because of the subject matter. Like it's just not a song that like I put on repeat really
Yeah.
ever. I actually when I listen to the album most of the time I skip it. And then Job 40 is pretty interesting because like there's like a lot of like Radiohead influence on that, but then it goes like really like metal stuff. Like you can kind
Mhm.
of hear like the everything in its right place a little bit, like some of the inversions and stuff, or like kind of like walking up in a similar way. I
Mhm.
thought it was like kind of unique. And then like um also I love metal. So like, then it goes like these big screamo stuff at the end,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that to me is pretty cool. Um so yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, I guess. I mean, and then Out of My Mind though too. Like I think it's just such a bizarre song that like I really gravitate towards the things that don't really sound like anything else, and that is certainly one that doesn't really sound like anything else. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, it's like trying to pick a favorite kid, so.
of
Exactly.
course,
Yeah.
Nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like
Um,
I know like in my discography the ones I do like the least though. So
well, that's
You
easy.
will do
Yeah.
me.
yeah, the ones I was like I know what we were going for here, but it did not land. And then
Missed
Yeah.
the mark.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that, and that will happen. But that's the thing, is like not being precious about the music is that then like you just followed up with something else. Like, yeah, it's
Exactly.
no big
Yeah.
deal. But if your ego is so attached to everything being dope all the time, like I don't know, like you should take pride in every song and hopefully get it to the thing, but like to the
Mhm.
finish fine, but I just don't see it as like super sacred,
Mm-hmm.
the way that a lot of other people do. I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
more to put music out.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So have the track list for your album come about. Did you write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
I had the intro pretty early on. And then I knew kind of how I wanted it to end. So like, you basically just like you have your beginning and ending and then just try to figure out all the places in the middle. Like I think there was a bit of shuffling around. I mean, I knew that the back half of the album was going to kind of look that way. I think it was just trying to figure out like the front end of like how to basically coax people in to listen if they like want to listen front to back, how you can kind of get them hooked with like kind of like the easier listening, and then like as you get towards the back half, if you've made a nice enough impression, hopefully they'll make it to there and then be like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna continue for the ride. Like I
Yeah.
guess something like Anguish, it's barely a song, it's like an interlude. Like that's not really music. It's just like the most amount of noise and just bizarre sounds as possible. And like
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool moment. And I hope people listen to it. But like also too, like, if that was towards the beginning of the album, I think it would turn a lot of people off. So like there was like a little bit of like it was pretty calculated in trying to figure out how to get people in from the top, and then like if I was going to get weirder to save it towards the end.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Less weird, the less weird stuff to the front, so that people get hooked in. Makes sense.
Right,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. You got to ease them into it. You can't just put all the weird shit at the front and scare them off, right?
right. Yeah, they're like, this isn't music. Like I don't want to listen to this.
What the
Like,
fuck?
this is just
they're like
sounds.
convinced you that we sound like we know how to make music, and then like we're turning it on its head. You have to like earn the audience's trust, basically.
Exactly. Just to then like freak them out a little bit, so they're like, "Wait a minute, this is actually kind of fire."
Right, right, yeah, yeah, yeah. More likely to listen to a screamo section if you've heard like a lot of pretty melodies earlier. If you're like not, attuned to that
Exactly.
sound usually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Hell yeah. So, would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
oh, pretty scattered. I mean, I was like a little all over the place. Like there was a lot of like of my own like personal issues that I think like I was like kind of working through, and like I never let an emotion go to waste. Like I try to jot everything down, good or bad, and like try to figure it all out, figure out all my problems basically on like the public forum, of making music. And so I don't know, like I mean there was like a little bit of like post COVID, like, I needed to like kind of like re-indoctrinate myself back into like the real world. Like I think it made me pretty antisocial. And then like, being able to get back into that. Like, I don't know, I was just really obsessed with like existential crises and stuff like that. Like it was just like things that I could not get my head around. And like, I think I just like came to the conclusion of just like letting it go at the end of the day.
Mm.
Cause I don't think I found like, the right answer to any of it. And I don't think you really do until you're dead. And then even then you might not even know. So like, it's like,
Shit, yeah.
it's hard to tell, but like I think a lot of that was just like the dizzying, existential issues that I think like humans have, and or at
Mm.
least me personally that I was really struggling with. But the good news is that I don't think I'll run into like, a midlife crisis, because I feel like these are things people wake up to when they're like, 45 or 50. It's like I've
Mm.
already unpacked all that. So at least now I can tread through life, with more confidence, knowing what I know now, I guess, trying to dig
Exactly.
through all of it.
Yeah, you got that
Absolutely.
shit done early. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It seems like nice to like kind of like live like in ignorance to all that. Cause like also too, like you don't really conquer anything by like, figuring out existential crises like all that much, because they don't have any answers. So like,
Yeah.
you can like Google all of that type of stuff. And I think it's just really finding like a real um secure sense in yourself is like,
Mm.
I think the best thing that you can do, and
Absolutely.
to other people, and like that was like a lot of like personal growth for me, that I think like I had another interview with somebody not too long ago, and they said like what's something that's different from when you started your career versus like where you are now. And I would say that I have a way stronger sense of self than I did.
Hmm.
I was, younger, trying to figure out how to make music. So that's been, massive as well. And so and I think a lot of that kind of came from working on this project, to some degree
Mm.
too. So
That's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? If you're doing the car with friends in the dark with headphones on, is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
oh yeah, this is a headphone album. This is like, I remember like being like 16 or 17, just getting like stoned out of my face and like listening to crazy
Fuck
ass
yeah.
rap songs and stuff. And like
Mm-hmm.
this is like meant to be kind of enjoyed like that. I think there's a couple songs that maybe you could toss on, like, in the context of, friends or whatever. I think most people, unless they're privy to the music already, might be a little confused by it. Like I
Mhm.
remember my friend showed me like Alt J when I was like really young, and like I couldn't really quite process it. I was like, dude, this music sucks. And then one day it clicked, and now like Alt J is like one of my favorite bands of like all time. So like,
Yeah.
I think it just kind of depends on how you like present it to people and like, let them kind of live with it a little bit. And
Mhm.
then maybe you have like a life experience. Like something like Blonde was like that for me too. Like when I first heard that album, like I was like, I don't know if I really get it. Like, where are the drums? Like, like I
Mhm.
want
Like, what's
Frank Ocean
happening?
with some drums. And then
Mhm.
like after like a couple years even, like then like I kind of came back around to it. And I was like, oh yeah, this dude's a genius. This is like
Exactly.
I just had to like kind of get to that headspace to be able to like process that in the way that it needed to be. And I don't know if my album is really like that. I just know that it is very like it tests your ears for sure. And so like if that's
Mhm.
something that you like or something that you want to like experiment with, it does have that to offer.
Mhm.
But I would say it's a headphone album, and if you like smoking, doing that, I wouldn't say trip to it. It's like kind of like a Beau is Afraid type of album or whatever that like it might be
Mhm.
like a little jarring for, some type of psychedelics or whatever, but
Possibly.
you could. I don't know. I wouldn't.
Fuck it.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
more like a wander around nature type rather than having people yell at me type for, trips. So
Yeah, for
That's fair enough.
psychedelic experiences. Yeah, I could see that. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair. So this one should be super, super quick. Off top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
roller coaster's one word, isn't it? A
Yeah.
roller coaster is like what I wanted to say, but no, a wild ride, I guess. Yeah, that's like probably something I would say, just because like it
Yeah.
is. If you take it in front to back, like it will take you on a journey for sure. Maybe
Yeah.
not what you want to go on, but it'll blast your head open wide. It's like 33 minutes of just like straight to your face, just like intensity, and then like the one slow song, Sarah, is like a very sad song as well. So like even in its down moment, it's still a very heavy listen. So.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
I just hope they really enjoy it. I mean, I really think that's like
Mhm.
really music at the end of the day. It's like I don't know if I want them to get any particular type of, reaction from it. I think it's just like,
Mhm.
did they enjoy, kind of like what we kind of threw out there for them to listen to? Like, I mean, I hope that they don't get too wigged out by like all like the existentialism on there, but like could be good for you too. Like there's a line on Kill Switch called like, you can run from your problems, but you can't run from yourself. And like that was one thing like for me
Mhm.
that I felt was like really massive to
Yeah.
learn, and that like that you will carry your problems with you everywhere no matter what your settings are and stuff like that is always within you. And
Mhm.
so I think like I don't know if you need to wake up to those types of things, I hope it does that for you. But also too,
Mhm.
just at the end of the day, if it's a cool listen and you think it's dope and all the cool production stuff gets you excited, like that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. More power to you. Fuck yeah. And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Oh, I mean, it was just challenging in general because there's not a lot of like references, like song wise, that like overlap with like a lot of the songs on this project. Like
Mhm.
Dogma's pretty safe, and I think there's like a lot of like indie influences there that are kind of like easier to pull from. But then like other than that, like I mean, the only other obvious one that I can think of is like Vamos is like kind of like a Timbaland type bounce. Like, you kind of if you listen to like Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake,
Hell
like
yeah.
that are going on through there. There's like a little bit of that influence too, but like those songs were like the easiest ones to do. So then like
Mhm.
everything else that was like didn't really have like a frame of reference or like a particular influence there, like it was really hard to kind of figure out because like one of the best things about music is being able to compare it to other songs and being able to see like what they did and how you can kind of do that and like turn it on its head a little bit or whatever.
Mhm.
But there was nothing really on this project that like other than those two songs I mentioned are that really sit in any particular genre, I guess. So it made it
Mhm.
pretty taxing. It's like the ultimate blank canvas, but
Mhm.
sometimes having what they say limitations breed creativity, like we didn't have any
Mhm.
limitations. So it was like really a lot to balance.
Mm, makes
For
sense.
sure. Got fucking
Um,
funky. Hell yeah.
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 So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
I'm not a huge snack guy. I usually just eat meals like, like 1,500 calorie, meals that'll hold me, for, I'm basically just a 2 meal a day type of guy. But
Hmm.
if I were to get a gas station snack, I do like the Cliff Bars.
Hmm.
Cliff
Ooh,
Bars are pretty solid. I used to like the white macadamia one, and then I ate it so much I got kind of sick of it, and then I moved to
mhm,
chocolate chip, which is
Yep.
pretty safe, easy one, and then the oatmeal raisin one is actually pretty good too. And I hate raisins. Like
hmm.
raisins ruin every food for me, but for some
Yeah,
reason
that's
I
fair.
really like that. And so yeah, probably like the Cliff Bars, and then like an overpriced bottle of water, probably like a Fiji water or like one of
Hmm.
those Icelandic ones with like all the grooves in it that look like a mountain peak. Like
Yeah,
I'm a sucker.
$15 a bottle.
And it's like, I know I'm getting ripped off, but I just don't care. Like I'm like such a sucker for like that kind of marketing. Or like if I go to like the liquor store or whatever, like I was looking at
Mhm,
like mezcals the other day, and I was
mhm.
like, "What's the coolest bottle?" And I was like, "I like that bottle. That's the one I'm getting." Like
Exactly. You're paying for the bottle.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I get tricked by that often. So there's my like
Oh yeah.
American consumerism, coming out for sure. So.
Damn straight. Yeah. And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Maybe like a paella, like
Mm.
like something that's got like all the different ingredients like kind of thrown in there together, and it's like really rich as well. So like, because I think it's like there's a lot of like bold flavors, but then there's like a lot of variation in it as well. And so like, seafood is sometimes like pretty pungent. Hopefully it's not spoiled because then it's like overly
That's
pungent. But
Yeah.
and then like sometimes like the spice that gets kind of thrown in there too. Like you got
mhm.
your and then clams and shrimp and random things like that. I'd say paella is a pretty good one. I'm trying to think of just something that's like got all the ingredients thrown in all at once, and then it's like kind of spicy essentially. There's probably like a lot of Thai food out there probably that could be similar, like because sometimes it is like too hot and you can't enjoy it. So it's
Yeah.
like there's certain moments in our catalog that I feel like are not for the I don't want to say like the weak, but it's like some people like it's like certain tastes it won't like line up with.
Yeah.
Like
The faint
some
of
people
heart.
Yeah.
like some people hate caviar, and I think caviar can not work sometimes too. But like if your palate is kind of attuned to it, then it will, it tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
but I don't
Gotcha.
know if we're full on caviar. I'd say paella is like a safe bet.
Paella though. Okay.
All
Not
Okay.
right.
That
overly
works then.
ritzy, but it's got
Getting
some.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. And for the last couple of questions, going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So, if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
I found out. So I was just watching the show. You can't have alcohol in prison. But I would if we could do that. I mean, I
Mhm.
have been really loving these like just kind of like mezcal and like lime juice drinks. It's like a margarita that like isn't sweet.
Mm.
I'd probably have one of those to drink. To eat, I really love Mexican food. Like it's like kind of like I eat it all the time. And so it would
Mm.
probably be like if I knew I was going to die. Like it depends on the restaurant. They usually call it like the name of the restaurant special, or like, I've heard it called like the gringo special, or like just kind of chicken, rice, and cheese. But like,
Mhm.
I love that dish where it's just like rice, chicken, or steak, or sometimes you can do like a choripollo with like chorizo and chicken,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
then the queso poured on top. I'd
Hmm.
probably do that as like the main entree, and then like
Hmm.
a whole like flight of hot sauces, like ranging from like
Fuck yeah.
the easier stuff like Valentina or whatever, and then all the way up to like the last step or whatever, just because I want that rush one more time before
Yeah.
I go. And then dessert, a good cheesecake, probably
Mm.
that, or like a brownie sundae with like ice cream on it. Um, the brownie's got to be hot though, because it's got to melt the ice cream over top of it.
Mm.
Um, and then I'm trying to think of like sides or like an appetizer, maybe like I don't have enough seafood in this thing. I would like some seafood. Some sushi would be good as like the appetizer. Yeah, like
Yeah.
maybe like a spicy tuna, keep it simple, or
Ooh.
like one of those like super fried rolls, and then they put like all the
Yes.
tuna and all the fish like laid over top of it, like tempura style.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. They would. I don't have this really nailed down. Good news is I probably won't be on death row, so that's good.
Yeah.
But
That's
Yeah,
good. Happy to
exactly.
report
Yeah,
that.
it's all
yeah,
hypothetical.
yeah.
You're safe. You're
Yeah,
safe.
it's like I feel like I can't decide. I feel like it'd be really, yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, yeah, that
Yeah.
probably main dishes.
All right.
Wonderful. And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
It'd probably be somewhere like really, if it's only a week and I knew that I would live, the I'm just trying to think of something recently. Like the Smiling Friends universe would be kind of interesting. Like
That'd be
they have
fucking
so
awesome.
much stuff going on. Like I feel like I would just be like wandering in awe. I'd be like in like a. Have you ever heard of like Meow Wolf, like that like really crazy art museum? Like they got one in Denver, in Vegas, and like
Mhm.
New Mexico. Like I feel like it would be like that, like times 100.
Mhm.
It'd be like wandering through there on psychedelics. So like that to me would be kind of fun, I think, for a
Yeah.
little while. So Smiling Friends little
Mhm.
universe would be cool. As long as I just didn't like die randomly like a lot of those characters do. So
They
Yep.
do.
like
Yeah,
the
they do
frog guy,
die.
if he just eats me or whatever, that'd be a bummer. So I
Exactly.
All right.
So,
And I've done asked the last question. Every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What is your favorite color?
yeah, I mean, I wear a lot of black, so I think black would probably be that. I just think it's like such a clean, neutral color that goes with everything, and like I love like just like how black t-shirts and like black jeans and like all of that, and like a black car is really nice too. But like if I had
mhm.
like a more like crazier color that's like not neutral,
Mhm.
Mhm.
probably purple.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
like purple a lot. And like,
Yeah.
I've always thought like if I ever had like one of those opportunities to buy like one like a dumbass sports car or whatever, like it'd be like purple with like a white interior. And like I
Yeah.
was like, really cool. And like
Clean.
I think I saw like Rick Ross in one of those and I was like, this is a cool car.
That's the dream. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we got a tour coming up here pretty soon. I think in less than a month. Please come see us. That'd be cool. Playing some songs, older catalog, some of the new album, some songs you haven't even heard yet either that'll be coming out shortly after we finish the tour. And yeah, just hope you enjoy the music. And if you don't, we'll put out more stuff anyway. So I don't
Oh
know what
yeah.
else to do with my life. This is what I've decided. So
Living the
Yeah.
dream. Yeah. Come on.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Walker from Your Neighbors, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.